Hi and welcome to our COP28 interview series here in Dubai. Joining me now is Laurent Segara, VP of Sustainability at JDE Peet. Based in the Netherlands, JDE has a long and rich history of providing tea and coffee to the world, dating back to 1753. With a huge portfolio of brands operating across 100 markets, the guest is well placed to answer some of our questions for us. So how are you feeling about being at COP?
Well, we're very excited, first because it's our first time at the COP28, but it's also a huge opportunity because literally everybody's here to discuss climate. The government, the NGOs, all of the industry, so it's really for us the opportunity to engage with people, to work together on finding solutions and also to actually learn a lot because you have different pavilions with new technologies, with climate finance, so it's really an incredible place to be to actually find a solution to create a better future.
Real mixing pot of all the different stakeholders. Yes. Should we go and chat about it more in the
Yes,
studio?
with
Let's
pleasure.
do it. So welcome, Laurent. Can you tell me, how is your company leading the way in sustainability in the tea and coffee industry?
So JDE Peet is the largest coffee and tea pure play player in the world. I mean, coffee and tea is what we do, but it's also all we do. And for us, being sustainable is critical in the sense that if we want our industry to continue to grow, we need to ensure that we have a sustainable future. And this is why 2 years ago, in 2020, we decided to actually amplify our actions to deliver true impact, to ensure that from the farms to the cup, we are taking the action necessary to ensure the future of coffee. And that's how we really entered in our Common Ground program, where from the responsible sourcing of the coffee, all the environmental program that we have to minimize footprint and also the way we deal with people, we can really create a better future.
What does that mean, responsible sourcing?
Responsible sourcing means that you understand the challenges at origin, where you source your coffee, that you address those challenges by implementing clear action, and then that you measure the impact. And this is how we see responsible sourcing. It's a continuous improvement process where you keep assessing, addressing, measuring the progress. And this is how you actually deliver impact in the sense that you are targeting the issues and bringing a tangible solution to actually face those issues. And those issues change actually from one place to the other. Because if you look at a coffee farmer in Vietnam or a coffee farmer in Uganda, they are facing clearly very different challenges. And through our assessment, we're able to understand what are those challenges. And then we are investing at scale in the origin to actually work with government and NGOs and our suppliers to actually bring solution to those challenges. And that's what responsible sourcing means for us. It means acting responsibly.
Okay. So when you say challenges, is it just sort of climate-related weather events, or is it overuse of pesticides? Can you give us some examples of what that might be?
The challenges at origins are very different. In some area, it might be related to use of chemicals, so pesticide, but above pesticide, especially if you look at climate, it's around fertilizers. So how do you bring the right amount so that you don't overuse it? In some other area, it's going to be deforestation, clearly, and this has a direct impact. In other area, the major challenge is the yield, because we talk a lot about the income of the farmers. The income of the farmers is directly linked to the yield that they are making, so how much coffee you produce on your piece of land. And this is an area where we have extensive work to ensure that we bring the farmers at a yield that allows them to reach the right level of income. And in other areas, it's about the people, so whether it's labor practices, child labor. So again, how do we understand what are those issues and tackle them? So it's very, we really have to manage the diversity of the situation in each coffee and tea growing area.
There's plenty of different challenges there. How do you feel JDE Peet is acting as a role model to other companies in the industry?
Well, as I mentioned before, coffee and tea is everything for us. And that's why we decided to act in an authentic way. So we're not here to brag about what we do. We're here really to deliver impact. And we also had to be innovative in the solution we brought. And that's why 2 years ago we engaged with Enveritas, an NGO that actually gives us the data to be able to assess the issues and actually engage. And we were one of the first one actually to engage in this route. And that's something we're very proud of because we become true actors of the future of coffee. We don't just rely on others, we actually do it ourselves. So that's one way we really become, I would say, leader, and we become innovative. The other part is talking about deforestation, which is a huge challenge for all the industries. This is somewhere where we are also being extremely innovative, in the sense that when most of the world is looking at traceability to actually exclude deforested farm from the supply chain, which I would say would make consumer feels well, but at the end it doesn't solve the problem because you just put the problem aside. The way we approach it is really in an inclusive way. Is how do we identify deforestation? How do we work with government and NGO to handle those deforested plots, to reforest them, and ensure that all the farmers, including the smallholder, can continue to access the European market? And this is where you have to bring creativity and leadership to find solutions to really deliver impact, and not just solutions to feel good about what you do.
Absolutely, and you just touched on it there. COP28 is supposed to be one of the most inclusive COPs to date. And with the work you're doing, you work with a lot of smallholders. So how are you, we can't make environmental improvements without including everyone. So what are you doing to support your farmers on the ground?
So today, through our Common Ground program, we have about 60 plus farmer projects around the world. So addressing all the challenges we identify at origin. And last year, we reached nearly 250,000 farmers through our program. So we engage directly at origin with government and NGOs to really either train farmers, because in many areas they need training. They need training to understand what are the actual practices that will improve their income, improve the yield, but also practices that do not damage the planet and nature. So that's very important to keep both focus. So that's part of what we do. But we also work on giving them and bringing infrastructure and assets. So we're one of the major funding partners of the World Coffee Research, who developed the coffee cultivars for the future. So coffee cultivars which are resistant to climate change, resistant to pests, give better yield. So that's an area which is important because you give farmer a plant that is going to be here for 10, 20 years. So if you start with the wrong plant, you're going to carry that for a long time. So it's really important to give them the right seedlings to start with, and that's something we are heavily involved in. And in some area, like if I take the example of Honduras, we are directly involved with communities to build childcare centers, because there is some challenges related to child labor. And one of the main drivers of child labor in those communities is simply that there is no place to leave the children during the harvest. And for us, it's important that the children live the life of a child, learns, plays, and that's why we are heavily investing also in those countries to build those centers, to also work with the government on ensuring that there is teachers so that the children can relive their life. So we really customize our approach according to the reality and the situation we are encountering.
Yeah, it sounds like you really need to listen to what people are telling you they need on the ground and then responding in turn. So kind of two-way conversation.
Yeah. It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all.
Exactly.
It's really understanding the situation and addressing them with the appropriate answer. And it's a journey, because you don't solve poverty, you don't solve child labor in a second. That's something that requires continuous investment, because any change is a risk for a farmer. People don't realize that for a coffee farmers or any farmers in the world, changing the way they crop, for them is always the risk and the uncertainty of not having their crop. And if they lose their crop, they have no income. And that's why it takes time to really demonstrate that what we are bringing with the NGOs and the government is creating value, to reassure them that they are not taking risk. And that's really, really important. And that's why you have to invest. You have to communicate a lot on the ground. You have to bring the reassurance that the change that is coming is ensuring also their future. And that's something very important. And that's why we have programs of 3 years, 5 years, and we extend some of them even longer, because you need to invest in the long term in those geographies to support the smallholder farmers. What
would you like to see discussed here at COP, and how do you want to be part of those conversations?
When we look at the COP, for us, it's a huge opportunity in the sense that we assemble all the decision makers in the same place to work on the future of the planet. So commitments are great, and we've heard about commitments and a lot of commitments. What we need also now is action. And that's really something that we want to pledge for. We need to pledge for action, because it's very good to commit, but now the clock is ticking, and we really need to engage in true action to stop climate change, and I would say to reverse climate change in some extent, to make sure that there is a future for tea and coffee. And not just for the farmers, but for all of us in the industry. And that's really important that we move in the action mode to deliver the impacts, to deliver those systemic change that will ensure that there is a future for this planet, but beyond the planet, that there is a future for humanity. And a future that is, I would say, a positive future in the sense that like the one we've known. So we need to ensure that we leave to our children and grandchildren a planet that is as good or even better than the one we've known.
Your long-term sustainability goals are very ambitious. Would you say too ambitious?
No, it's never too ambitious. It's when it comes to creating something better, there's, the limits are where your eyes can reach. And when we look at our ambition, net zero carbon emission for 2050 is pretty much aligned with what all of us need to deliver. And it's a huge challenge, because in many cases, as I said, we have to drive change, and sometimes the solutions are not even available. So that's the first one, and we have to do it by 2050. So that's critical. And then when we look at what we're doing on packaging reduction, on nutrition, on human rights, the timeline are much shorter, but this is critical. If you think human rights, there's no human right breach which is acceptable today. And that's why the timelines are much shorter, because we have to tackle those issues in short time. So it's not too ambitious, and we've been actually adding a lot more in the past 2 years. And this is where we're moving. Now we have the commitment, we have the strategy, now we're delivering. And that's where we will really make the difference, is ensuring that we are not just setting up ambition, but actually delivering ambition. And that's where we make true impact.
Ambitious and some positive steps to go forward. So best of luck. Wish you well for that. Thank you.